meetings, like I said in the last meeting, about once a month so that we can touch base with all of the people who are in LEO, SAFR included, and kind of just touch base and see, what needs to be worked on, other things like that within the server. That way, LEO is always maintaining a high standard. One thing that we don't want is to be a server where we have all these extra departments in PSRP, yet we're not having meetings, we're not having group discussions, and that's where you see a lot of these servers, typically the ones that we're competing with, that kind of don't have active LEO and don't have a group effort. So I have a couple things that I do want to bring up in this meeting regarding LEO. So, the first thing is activity. Like I just said, it's been great. Activity isn't where we want to see it at. We want to always see 15, maybe 20 LEO on, you know, around the same time. But for the most part, I think that during the peak times, LEO starts to get really high, and that's what we like to see because all of the department heads, myself, have all been putting in effort to try and get LEO active, and it's nice to see that you guys are enjoying it. And so with that, we'll continue to bring new things as we've seen in the recent update. We um we optimized all of the cars in the server. So from SAFR to subdivisions to patrol cars, they're now 1080p liveries. Now, if you get really close to them, you'll see that they're like lower quality. But what that does is if you, let's say you're at a bank robbery or you're doing a 1080, your frames will be much higher because your computer doesn't have to render 2K resolution. So I know not everybody's running their game at 2K, so that's why we did the change. So that's something big, and you guys may have not noticed it, but for us, when we go and look at um here we go. When we go and look at the results of the optimization, it has such a big impact. And so, another thing that we've also been working on is the SAST liveries that you've seen gotten released. That has been a work in progress since I think November, and so finally it's come out from the developer who made it, and SAST now got the liveries back. I think in November when V3 came out, every single department had new liveries besides SAST. So and SAFR, of course. So SAST has been a work in progress for a while. So that's something that we've been working on for a while. And another thing that we'll talk about is the recent reports. We've been seeing a lot of officer reports come in, which is normal because we do have a lot more trainees going out, a lot more LEO and RTO. So there is going to be a spike in reports. And so I just want to let you guys all know that people are clipping all the time in the server, whether they're a Civ staff or LEO. They have a clipping software usually running in the background. So when you guys fuck around, you guys are messing around in RTO on duty, they will clip you and they will report you, and you'll likely get striked. Going forward, myself and the rest of the heads are going to be more strict on those punishments because LEO is something that people come in the server as a civ, and they look at it, and they kind of judge the server on, and they say, okay, this is a good server, this is a bad server. You go in like Carolina State roleplay, you see their server's not that good. The LEO isn't that strict, and so PSRP is one that we don't want LEO messing around and be lenient on. We want to be strict on them, and that's not to be harsh, but rather we have LEO who know what they're doing, and they're taking their job seriously. A lot of people don't take their job seriously here, and that's where we start to kind of have people who mess around and kind of just act like it's a joke. So for the rest of the people, the higher ups here, they want to see good RP within RTO, and that's what we want to focus on. Another thing is the new F5 menu that I did tease in the announcements. That is currently in progress. It's a big development project because we're releasing also a gang side of that menu, which we've never seen before. So we're spending a lot of time on it, testing everything, and with that will come new cuffing and dragging animations. So when you're currently cuffing someone, they can move while you're doing it. And so myself and the dev team have looked at that and said this is not good. We don't want people moving while they're getting cuffed. So we're working on that. We're also working on a new drag animation. As you've seen a lot of these ESX servers, the player kind of goes down on the ground on two knees. We want to kind of work on that as well. And another thing that we will add is an option to remove player weapons. This is really useful for whenever you're searching someone. When you do slash me, you can actually search them. You can just take away all their weapons. Now, it's not going to tell you what weapons they have, but instead it will remove all their weapons so that if they go in the jail cell, they won't be able to pull out a gun. So that is something that we will focus on, and it'll have the same stuff that we currently have. Um, Jailing isn't on there right now because that is something that we're revamping. So when you get jailed with the new menu, it'll have a cutscene. So the cutscene will kind of have like a bus and some other things, and then whenever you get unjailed, it'll have like you walking out of the gate. A lot of different new things that we're working on, and that's the main focus for 2023 for myself and this entire server is creating stuff that you've never seen before in another server. If you look at like Cali RP, for example, I look at Cali RP because they're the biggest server right now in our industry, is they are number one, and so we want to compete with them, and the way that we do compete with them is having exclusive stuff to PSRP. That's what you guys have seen in the last two content updates for this month, and that's what we're going to continue going forward. So LEO is one that we're going to focus more on going forward because right now I've been focusing on the Civ stuff, and so I'm going to transition over to LEO. And another thing is the handling. So the handlings on the cars when we first released the update for yesterday or last night was that the handlings when you went off road it would stop, and so some of the cars still have issues with that, so we're gonna revamp every single car individually, which is a lot of work, and try and just make it brand new from scratch. That way, whenever we do release the new speeds that I did tease, it'll be all good, and you guys won't have any issues with it because I didn't know it was gonna have issues. It had issues in the test server, but I didn't know it would translate into the main server. So we're gonna take some more time and make sure when we do release them, they don't have any issues. So I do apologize about that for those of you who had those issues until they got patched, but other than that, I don't have a ton that I want to talk about. I don't really like talking the entire time during these meetings. I like to open up the discussion to hear from you guys on what you guys want to see within LEO. So, like I said, we have a dev team now. We've hired developers. This is mainly because PSRP, the sales, the revenue is increasing within PSRP, so that allows us to get more devs. Devs are not cheap. They cost money, obviously. That's why we release new things, and that's why some things are paid whenever we release them. So that is another reason why we have devs now. So if you guys have ideas, again, it doesn't have to be something that's already in FiveM. It could be something that's just an idea. We can try and think of it and try and script it, try to make it, but do understand that this open discussion, we only want to hear stuff that is actually going to be useful. So let's say, for example, you come up here and you ask, can we get a blood alcohol tester? I mean, that isn't really useful because you're not going to use it all the time. So try and think of things that you would use every single day while you were on as LEO and it'd be useful for you. For example, the remove all weapons was one that has been brought up to us in searching people. That is one that's pretty big. And so that's something that we've developed. So you guys can raise your hand. I'll invite you as you come up. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand. And go ahead and raise your hand and I'll bring you guys up here. Don't come up here normally. I'll invite you one by one. And so when you get invited, just come up here. So Sammy, Fresh, and Rez, you guys can come up here. Fresh, go ahead.
I think you should pit something like, so like you know how like jugs, right?
What'd you say?
I think you should
Drugs?
make like a thing where like if they pop a jug, they actually feel the thing, and like they're and like when they do it and they do like a jug thing, they could like see your movement is weird, you know?
So I don't even know if in GTA you can do that to where your character starts wobbling. I mean, that's something that we could focus on, but a lot of people don't even know about the drug menu. So that's something that we've got to kind of look at and see if we could implement because the drugs are kind of hard because you typically see that in an ESX server where drugs actually matter because you can buy them, you can trade them, you can do a lot of different things with drugs. In PSRP, you just open up a menu and press a drug. So it's not as inclusive or not as in depth as other servers. And so that's why we're not focusing as much on it. So I don't know. We can look into it, but for me, I don't think it's going to really enhance the role play that much. So that's just my opinion, honestly.
Can I
You have
go?
anything else fresh? Okay, Blaine's and Snow. I said it. Don't come up here. You'll get invited. So you just raise your hand and I'll send you an
I
invite.
got invited. It showed that I got invited to.
All right. I didn't send you an invite. I don't know how you're getting that. Sammy, you can go ahead.
I feel like I don't know if this is possible, but like I feel like Elio and Civ should be like get a suggestion where they can like customize their guns, like their like scopes or like red dot iron sights on the weapons for like certified Civ and Elio.
I believe the weapon store has a version of that. No, where you can. Are you talking about just LEO or civilian? Which
Both.
one? I think the gun store has an option where you can change the scope and mags and all that. Um,
Yeah, it has an option where you can like pick like extended mags and stuff like that. But like to get more options on like let's say like a Glock, like we can put a scope on that, you know?
Yeah, we can look into that. I think the next thing that we're going to work on is revamping the weapon store. Right now, I think the weapon store is pretty plain, so we're going to try and convert the menu interface and then also add different ways on the little weapon menu. So you can add like different decals and scopes and stuff like that. Because there are scopes in GTA, we just need to implement it into the server. So we'll work on that. That's a future project right now.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Thank you. All right. I'll start on inviting the people who are higher up, and then we'll move on to the lower ranks. Just because I think it's only fair that the higher ups get to speak. I don't know. That's just my opinion. If you're like a 2 king or higher, or something like that. Um, we'll start off with Kobe.
So I've I'm not sure if you have done this, but or thought about it. The LEO carbine rifle has a lot of recoil. I mean, it's the recoil is quite seriously uncontrollable. Uh, and when we're in high situations with gangs, stuff like that, we're always using the LEO carbine rifle, and we just can't compete because of its recoil. It's insane. And I know everybody else in here can agree. It's an insane amount of recoil. It's literally uncontrollable.
So rifles actually have the least amount of recoil out of all the categories. Pistols and SMGs are higher, but the thing is that the recoil is classified by weapon class, not weapon itself. So, for example, all the rifles have the same amount of recoil regardless of what you use. So, the carbine rifle, we can't just turn it down because then if we turn it down, all the rifles on the server will have lower recoil, which would make it really difficult if you're playing on gangs because then people have lower recoil. So, the only option would be for us to talk with our dev team and see if we can get a custom recoil script where it has it per weapon. But that would be a future project that we look into. So, and it's been suggested a lot. We just really haven't gotten around to it because the way that we do it is we try and focus on the big projects first, and then little things like recoil and stuff like that make their way into the big content updates. So we'll work on recoil at least for the carbine. I think the rest are pretty fair.
All right, all right. Thank you.
Yep. Frosty.
All right, so I am up here about the sniper cert, the heavy, like a new livery for the sniper would be pretty cool, like more like a realistic 50 cal, you know. I
It's
feel
like
like
a
that would be
skin
some
on it.
like a skin, yeah. Like the carbine has a realistic one, and then like the combat pistol has a livery, like more liveries for like LEO weapons. Like I know there's only like those three mainly that are used.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that for that weapon. I think for the most part the rest have decals, so they're good. But yeah, it shouldn't be too hard adding one for that, so we can look into that.
That's about
Anything
it.
else?
Nah, that's about it.
All right. Thank you. All right, Desmond.
So I saw in JDO suggestions there was the grappler. Uh, yeah, that's something you could add. I mean, it'll help out with the 1080s. It'll add more RP behind 1080s.
So the issue with the grappler is that the developer who makes it isn't really good. There's a lot of issues with the developer having laggy scripts. The script's buggy. London Studios, for example, none of his scripts are in our server, so we don't like buying scripts from that developer. He's the only one who made the grappler, and we could look into making it custom, but for me at least, I don't know. I feel like for the most part, you're never really that close to someone in 1080. The SU cars aren't fast enough to compete with most street tunes. So maybe after I don't know. I feel like for the most part, after we increase the speeds of the LEO cars, you should be able to catch up to them. But I don't know. The grappler isn't something that I find really interesting at all. It just looks like a mess. So it's just been denied for now, at least.
All right, and the second thing, in the menu, like the F5 menu, when you seat and unseat people, it'd be pretty cool if there's an actual animation that shows your character putting the person into the car instead of the suspect just teleporting inside your car.
I see. Um, yeah, we could look into that. A lot of the animations that you see are from GTA. So, if we find an animation where like someone's getting in and out of a car, like from the GTA story mode, then we can implement that into the script. So, I'll let the devs know about that and see if it's possible.
All right.
All right, thank you. All right, Tap.
I was just wondering if we're gonna see a new LEO director anytime soon.
That's TBD. There's not really a need for one, so still TBD. But there's a plan for it in the future, so we'll look into that for now. But it's more of just kind of with time as time goes on, people resign, so those people go up into that position. So hopefully by March you'll see one.
Alright, thank you.
Yep. Snow.
So I don't really know if this is possible because I've tried to research it. but I was thinking like I've always thought this while playing if there could be like a way we could use the computer inside of the patrol vehicle as like our CAD because for example if I pull somebody over, I have to like alt tab to my second monitor and like do the CAD stuff and like what if they take off, then I have to like do all this kind of shit to get back onto my RP screen and then like it gets complicated. So I don't know if that's possible, but it's an idea.
So our previous CAD that we used back in the summer of 2022, it had a version or a script where you could have the in-game CAD. What it ended up doing is crashing the server for like 3 weeks, and we couldn't figure out what it was. That CAD we now moved on from, and now we have a different CAD. We didn't make this CAD that we have now, and there is no implementation for the in-game CAD. So we didn't make the CAD, so we can't just create a 5M in-game CAD version. So until they make one, we can't really just make one. The computer screen that's in your car, that's just a prop, so it can't really be used as one. The only version that we've ever seen is something like a CAD that was you just do a command and it pops up a tablet. So that was
Got you.
really the only option. But we tried it in the past. It caused so many issues because it was just really, really heavy on the server. So there's no plan for it right now. We can't really do much with it.
All right, that's understandable.
All right, thank you, Nate.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring up something I saw a little bit ago. I think maybe it was Buck who suggested this like a few weeks ago. Suggested like 2 RTOs for the same county, because now that there's no required RTO splitting, it's almost always all BC. So he suggested maybe like a BC RTO 1 and a BC RTO 2, because when it's like 25 people in there, it's pretty hectic, and like it's really, yeah.
What do you mean by hectic? How is it hectic?
Like
In what
nobody
way?
can really get good comms, and the only thing you're really hearing is like keep strict RTO, because nobody can really get a hold of the whole thing. It's just pretty complicated.
I don't know. It's really hard doing two different RTOs in the same county just because, let's say a priority is going on. What are you gonna do? Go back to that RTO and tell them that there's priority going on? Or you're just gonna use the same cops you got in the same RTO. There's a lot of different things that would go on there, but I don't know. I think it might be needed as time goes on because as time goes on, the server gets bigger. We get more cops. That's just that simple. We keep growing, and so we might have to make another one. I did want to bring up as well the whole LS patrolling. I know LS RTO is just straight up empty, and nobody goes in there, and I think that's just because the RP's still there. But at the same time, most of the in-depth RPs in Los Santos because that's where all the gangs role play and all the other civs, and so I don't know. We got to push for more Los Santos RP, and I don't know. Maybe create a second Blaine County RTO.
So
We'll look into it. It's just I don't know. There's a lot of different things that have to be factored into that before we just make another RTO. It's not that easy.
so maybe now that we have like a whole like separate thing for LEO supervisors, like maybe we could allow people to like enforce RTO splitting again.
Well, what that did is it just made people not want to get on. Nobody wants to go in a BC RTO, then get told to go to another RTO. They're just gonna get off. That's what we saw. It's not like they're gonna go in LSRTO and have fun there. If they didn't want to join it in the first place, they're not gonna join it whenever they're forced to. I mean, we're not gonna do that just so people don't want to get on because activity was pretty low at that time, and activity is pretty good now, and I don't want to kind of ruin that. So I don't know. Nobody was really happy with it at all. It was overall a bad system of just forcing people. So that's at least what I saw.
All right, I got you. All right, that's it.
All right, you have a good one.
Too.
All right. Holly, Poser, and Holly, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just had an answer for the drugs thing, and I tried it out whilst I was waiting. The drugs menu, it already makes you like stumble on that. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't
Or
know.
it does work fully, and I
Okay.
made sure.
All right. Thank you. Poser.
All right. This is a suggestion I don't really know if you can even do, but I'd like to suggest it anyway. So instead of just spawning in your LEO loadout of your menu, if you can kind of make like trigger a dev to make in the LEO stations or the PDs, like make an armory where you can go collect your loadout from the station instead of just spawning it in.
It's a good idea, yeah. So LEO loadouts at stations. That's good. That's actually really good. It would solve our problem of people using LEO loadouts when they're doing Civ RP or Gang RP to get an extra health boost. So that's a good suggestion.
All
Good
right.
suggestion. We'll look into
Thanks.
that. I think that'd be a great addition. Thank you, Poser.
Yeah.
Monsoon.
So I've got like two suggestions. The first
Sure.
one, this might cause some problems. Could we add a gas canister for the LEO loadout for like when you run out of gas on duty?
You can just go to the gas station and get one.
I'm saying if you like run completely out of gas on the road.
I mean, yeah, we could look into it. I don't know. It's not really realistic to have a gas canister in a car, but it wouldn't be too hard to add. We could look into that.
Then my other suggestion was, is there a way we could get like a breaching shotgun for SWAT?
Um, Depends on what type of shotgun. There are a couple in GTA. Just like a regular pump or sawed off one. Which one?
Probably just like a regular pump or something of that variety, nothing sawed off.
Yeah, we could look into getting a shotgun. I think it would make sense for close combat. The thing is, there's just one shot at the person though, but that's probably all you need, really.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
I just want to add on to the gas thing. I think with this new script, gas runs out like really quickly. You go on duty for maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, and then you gotta fill up with gas. I think it's because of that new gas script. So I don't know if you could look into that or whatever, or if we just frequently get gas. But I think that's the reason why it runs out so fast.
Yeah, script. I mean, we can adjust the values because it's more of a global thing, so
Alright.
that will be looked into.
Thank you.
All right, Blaine's, Frank, Geo, and Jay. Blaine's, you can go first.
All right, so I basically had a few suggestions which I have posted in JDO Gen. One of them being the charger's speed. Sorry, the charger's brake. So what has happened with the charger? I suggested this before, and when it got updated, where it was supposed to get better brakes, I believe that it got worse. Many people agree with me that it takes now like 10 to 15 seconds to like stop when before it used to like take like 5.
Okay, yeah, we can look into that whenever we do our big speed boost for the patrol cars. Is look into that charger because I think we changed the traction on it, and I think in return it just made the brakes worse. So that's something that wasn't intentional at all. So we'll look into that.
All right. Another suggestion that I also had, I guess this is more like for FTO and FTA. So in where cadets are able to see their outfits, like it only shows like the men variation. Could we also add like women variation in there? Because there are multiple people who are asking for the women variation too, who I've had to show it to.
We don't have female LEO clothing. That's not on the server,
We do have it for LSPD.
but not every department has it. So if we do it for one, then we have to do it for all. So it's just better not to do it for any of them. So we don't have it for all departments. LSPD should honestly get removed because we had it there for an exception. So I don't know. We don't add it because very few women play the server, and considering how big the file is, it's not really worth it. So unless LSPD wants to make their own cadet uniform, they can. I don't have any plans on taking it out right now. So if someone's in a training and they don't want to be in BCSO or SAST, then they can join LSPD and have their own female uniform. So that's really the only
Alright.
option for now.
All right, and something that I did also see in GGO suggestions was someone did like a whole thing about dispatch. Have you ever thought of like bringing dispatch with possibly a new revamp? Because when it did came in, I think that it helped a ton, but then it started like dying down.
Well, I think the quite opposite. I think dispatch was a terrible addition because what it did is that people would leave RTO because dispatch was on. Nobody wanted to deal with dispatch because they were controlling it too much. And at the end of the day, if you don't have one guy who's really motivated to run dispatch, it's not going to do well. It's that simple. And we never had that one person. I don't think we have that one guy at all. One guy who can run dispatch and can do it for months to months and months. So dispatch has no plans of coming back. It didn't do well the first time. Typically, when something fails in PSRP, we don't bring it back. It had its chance and it didn't do well. So there's no point of us putting all this time and effort and money into dispatch and for it to fail a second time. There are much bigger things in PSRP that we're focusing on, and that's kind of what we're doing. So the best thing that we can do is have supervisors hand out, I don't know, warnings or whatever in RTO. That's really what supervisors are there for. But sometimes they don't even do their job. They're in RTO and they let the free roaming go on and talking. So that's our best option for now is supervisors.
All right.
All right, thank you, Jay.
All right, so basically, I saw a suggestion. It was quite a while ago, but it was like there was these two pads on the front of the LEO vehicle, and they would shoot a GPS tracker onto the back of a suspect's vehicle, and you could track them through that instead of asking for pings and chat. So I feel like that would be very useful as well. And also, I just saw Massey's suggestion, which is the LEO riot shield. That would also be really useful for breaching as well.
Yeah, so the GPS tracker is something that we're still trying to look into. I don't know. It's just I feel like when we add something like that, Gramps, don't bring yourself up here. Whenever we add that, I feel like it's just gonna die off. That's one thing that we're not fond of is whenever we add these new things that we pay for and that we implement, it just dies off and nobody uses it. So the GPS tracker one is still kind of TBD. It may or may not ever get added. So we're still thinking on it and see if that's a great addition or not. And I don't know. Usually we only add these like really big changes that you like the F5 mini, for example. Everybody's going to be using that. The GPS tracker, you add it. What happens a month later? People usually forget about it. It never happens. So that's something that we're still kind of looking at.
I mean, I know personally that I have to ask for pings a lot. Either the vehicle's too fast, speeds away, or they just lose you easily, and you'd have to ask for a ping. And sometimes they may not see it, and then the scene just gets 22'd, which
Yeah.
is kind of bad for Elio. It's just lessening our like the amount of RP we can do if we're not able to like continue it because we can't find them at all. So I personally like just think that it would just be nice because we can actually continue the scene, having to end it after a minute of asking for a ping and not getting a response.
Okay. Yeah, we can look into it and test it. And if it ends up being really useful, then we can add it because I'm sure the script isn't going to be that too heavy on it's not too heavy on the server, so we should be able to add it. But yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah, and also the fixing maybe the riot shield, which is in the F5 menu as well.
Okay, we'll look into that.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Geo?
Yeah, I can have quite a few suggestions.
Go ahead.
First one is add a rope to SWAT.
To what?
SWAT so they can use the ropes and stuff.
Ropes where? In the car, on the helicopter?
Like if you wanna like, let's say there's where if you're breaching from like 106 or something, and then you wanna like rope from the building or something.
So like ropes so you can go down a building? I'm confused on what you're implying.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't find that useful at all. Needing rope to go down a building. I mean, usually when you go up on a building, there's usually a ladder somewhere. And using rope is kind of I don't know, it just doesn't make sense at all to add a rope. I know what you're implying though. It's kind of like where you have rope at the top and you go down like in a couple like Rainbow Six or something like that. But I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I don't know. I just don't find it useful.
And then back to the CAD things. Maybe if you can add like a CAD in game, so people have to register cars in the in game, something.
Yeah, that was brought up earlier in the meeting, and that has been denied just because it's not possible with our current CAD. We can't custom make that because we didn't make the CAD.
And then I would like to add something to the suggestion that Tab made about 2 RTOs. It wouldn't kind of work since priority cooldown and stuff. Like,
Yeah. We'd have to do 2 different cooldowns. So
yeah. And then my
there's a lot
last
that has to go
suggestion.
into it.
My last suggestion is kind of like so I played on a server before where you can like actually have armor and weapons on you. So like, if you let civilians maybe rob LEO just to like they can take their guns if like on when only when needed. Like if they're trying to escape the cops or something, you know. Since the remove weapon thing is coming, let's say they get somehow broken free or something, then they can search LEO and take what they need if they see somebody, you know what I mean.
I'm completely lost on what you're trying to. You said something about
Like let
armor and then escaping cops. I don't know.
let LEO, I mean Civs rob LEO on like if they need guns to escape from LEO or something.
Yeah, we're never gonna add civs robbing LEO. That's pretty messy. So, especially like LEO stuff, like weapons or cars, that's never gonna get added because that's just too messy. The server isn't strict enough roleplay to where you can rob LEO and it doesn't turn out south. You're gonna have reports left and right, call admins left and right. It's just too messy. So, that's never gonna happen.
Oh, all right, thank you. Wait, can you also maybe if LEO can get body armor or something?
You have body armor when you get your loadout, the GTA body armor.
Oh wait, actually
So
gives us more health.
yeah, you have I think 50% health increase. So let's say you're fighting a gang member, you should technically have more health than them. But I mean, your weapons are less lethal than theirs, so you're at a bit of a disadvantage. But yeah, that's always been in the server. It's just more health. You can't see your health, that's why you probably don't notice it. But yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll bring up a couple more people, and that'll end off the meeting because we could be here all day talking. I got requests left and right, so we'll bring up Hamilton, Adrian, Danny, and Williams, and then we'll end it off there. All right, Danny, go ahead.
Oh, I saw this a few times, but a suggestion for a prone for like SWAT sniper.
Okay. Yeah, we could look at that. I think it would be good for the whole server, just adding prone. Because if we let's say we add prone, it would have to be a server wide thing. You can't really like make it permission based. So um it could be cool just having prone for the whole server, especially for SWAT. So yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah, everybody.
All right. Williams.
I actually have a few. Starting with the beanbag shotgun. Is there any way we can get a livery that looks a little more realistic than bright orange for the beanbag shotgun?
So the beanbag shotgun itself, when we add it, it already has its own decal on it. It just replaces its entire weapon that's in GTA. So um I'm not sure on how we would change the livery because it's the entire model itself that does everything. So like instead of it killing you, it just tases you or whatever. So unless we find another beanbag shotgun, I don't think we can change what's already on there.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to talk about was possibly enforcing based on your department on what RTO you're in, because I know SAST is state, LSPD would be city, and then BCSO would be BC. I didn't know if that was something we could look into, having LSPD patrol more in LS than BC.
So that has been talked about at least with a few department heads, and that is something that we would never do. And you don't ever find servers this big doing it. And the reason why is because certain departments would have way more members than the other. For example, LSPD wouldn't have as much members as SAST because people would immediately join SAST to patrol everywhere rather than joining LSPD where they're stuck at one place on the map. And also, I don't know, it would just RTOs would be way off and departments wouldn't be even at all. It would be like, let's say hypothetically we did that, SAST would probably have like 300 people, LSPD and BCSO would have like 50, 75 each. So it would be way uneven and kind of unfair for the other departments because they're at a disadvantage automatically.
Okay, and then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is I'm not sure because I haven't really looked at it too much, but when you do slash duty, does the person's call sign pop up on the blimp if you go on the maps?
I believe so. I'm not sure. Maybe
Okay.
Adrian knows. I don't know. I haven't gone on duty in ages. Adrian, do you know if the blips show your call sign?
Your call sign now just shows. Oh, I mean, if you go on the map and like click on their
Yes, it
blip,
does.
it'll show their
Okay.
call sign
And
if
then
they
the
have their
last thing
call
is
sign
if
on their
you
name.
don't do T/duty, is there any way we can make it so that if you don't do that specific command, you can't open any of the police stations?
What do you mean open? Oh, like the locks?
Yes, the doors, yeah.
We could take it a step further and make it so you can't even use your LEO F5 menu. I don't know. I mean, we can make like a universal system so that a command has to be done and it opens up everything, like the locks, the F5 menu.
Yes, because
So
I know we've had a few problems with people that have LEO perms that, especially, it was big when we had a lot of COs. I know we don't have a lot of them now. But people um, showing up to police stations, unlocking the doors, leaving them unlocked, people walking into the police station that aren't even on duty, and trying to RP in the police stations. And I know that was a big problem. I haven't seen it much lately, but I figure um, it'd be something good to implement that um, if you don't do the command, you can't unlock the doors.
yeah, for sure, that's a good idea. We'll look into that and then try to tie it all around with the F5 menu as well, so that people aren't using the F5 actions off duty as well.
That and then making it so that gangs have a one life rule, just like LEO does when it comes to scenes with LEO and DHS, instead of doing 3 lives, because it's not. The one thing, I'm on the LEO side and I'm on the gang side, and the one thing that I particularly don't like about both sides is that um, doing scenes with DHS, we pick 3 lives, but coming back to the scene from the hospital is kind of hard to do if, say, DHS already has control of the area, so on and so forth. You know, it doesn't create that realistic aspect.
Yeah, that was actually announced a few months ago. No matter what department you're in, whatever you're gang, DHS, whatever, you don't pick how many lives you get. You get 1 life and that's it. So if you self revive or you come back and respawn and stuff like that, you can't be doing that. The only time is like a war, like a gang war. That's the
Okay,
only
because I know
exception.
that DHS and LEO scenes usually they pick like 3 lives for LEO, 3 lives for gang, kind of deal, or based on the number of LEO responding versus the number of gang members. They say, like, say gangs could have 3 lives, LEO has 1 life or 2 life. So I didn't know if it was something that we could try to enforce more about the 1 life rule.
The only exception I would say, my bad, DHS has that ability to choose lives just because they've always had that ability. LEO is just no matter what you're doing LEO wise, you can't do any team deathmatch role play. Same with gangs, unless they're doing like a slide, um, which we might have to. I don't know. I think the slides are a bit different, but the wars, for example, gangs versus gangs wars, those are lives based, and LEO hasn't. You can't be doing lives, so
Okay.
cops can't
Is
do
there
lives
any
and
way
respawn.
we can make an announcement in the gang server so that everybody knows that?
Well, the gang side is very different than LEO. The gang
As
side, I
far
mean,
as
slides you can kind of respawn and come back. LEO is just you can't.
that, I understand. I'm talking about clarifying the line between LEO and slides, where if you're in an LEO scene, it's a 1 life rule versus if obviously wars and slides, it's respawn and come back. If
Yeah,
we could do an announcement that kind of like puts in detail on like what is supposed to happen versus what is happening.
yeah, we'll clarify it a little bit more for the gang side in the future about that.
Appreciate it. That's all I have.
Yeah, no problem. Hamilton.
Hello, Georgie. So I do have a question first.
Okay.
You do not have a warrant system, correct?
It's in the CAD, but I'm sure nobody uses it.
But does it directly say warrant, or is it just arrest?
Pretty sure it says warrant. There are live warrants on there, I think.
Are there? Well,
I don't know. You can go check
if there's
after.
not, let's just just say they're not. All right. My idea and what I brought to past ESX servers actually, but I want to see if it can be done here, is an in-game documentation script like incident reports. Since the code in the CAD is not your own code, you can add your own incident reports within the server. So like let's do T/slash docs, right? So it's a documentation script that where you can put warrants, um, and incident reports, and let's say court dates, right? And that's another thing I wanted to add. I want like, is there a way you can be open? I'm sure you had this idea before, and you probably shut it down. That's why it's not here now. But an actual court system where you have licensed district attorneys, judges, and stuff like that. Have you ever thought of a court system?
That's open for someone to use as an organization. Someone can go pay for an organization and open it up and have a whole court system. They can do that, but um, we tried doing that with a previous team management member, or I think management member, and it just never got off the ground, and it ended up just not working out. So I'm at least done trying on my end on trying getting it added. If someone else would rather go create all the documents, create all the stuff needed for an organization, they can go do that. They can go make their own court system. There's a courthouse in the server, so if that ever gets added, that is a possibility. But PSRP isn't going to do that on their own. People have to go make that.
All right. Well, with the warrant system, I think LEO roleplay will be a lot more sophisticated, and like you said, you do want roleplay to be as best as possible and keep it as serious as possible. Correct?
Yeah.
So maybe another idea is maybe a forensic lab in the PD station. But like I said, with the T/docs, you can have officer pass document papers showing warrants with the court system if you add it, but you said you're not. Or a higher up can actually sign off on this warrant, or a judge can sign off of it. So, and with the court, you can have a Discord channel for the past like case records for the judicial court scenes. That would be awesome, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it all sounds great, but it's always harder to get it added.
Absolutely. But that's why it's just an idea. But I
Course.
am getting, word that, marine boat, it needs fixed for the subdivisions. And Jen also said that, the trooper truck has no gas hookup, like you can't refill it.
Yeah, the gas script is pretty iffy. We still gotta do some fine tuning on it because there are a lot of cars that it just doesn't work with. So that's still in development, I guess.
All right. Well, with the court system, and like you said, it's organizational. It's up to us if we want to have a scene. But I get that you like handed that off to like someone and trusted it to work, and it obviously did not work. But have you tried it with multiple people, different people?
There was a whole group on that, and that entire group didn't get it off the ground. So PSRP is no longer going to just hand things to people as group stuff, at least for like, I don't know,
It
different
needs to be
departments with the
applied for.
PSRP.
Yeah.
That stuff's never happening again. We've done it way too many times, and for the most part, it always fails because it's very rare you find someone who's that motivated. So,
All right. Well, all right.
all right, anything else?
That will be all.
All right, thank you. Adrian?
I just want to see if there's any update on the bank robbery script. If you had found the script or anything yet.
That's kind of just been pushed off because for us, we don't find. I mean, I don't find bank robberies that in depth. It's pretty stale. You do a bank robbery, you shoot at the cops, you run away, boom. That's
Yeah.
pretty much it. It's not as in depth. So, um,
Oh,
we would
yeah.
we would much rather focus on stuff that brings better role play rather than
Yeah.
stale role play. Because if we add the bank robbery script, it's just gonna bring more stale role play to
Yeah.
LEO.
All right.
So,
For sure.
yeah.
All right. For sure.
All right, thank you. All right, well, that's going to conclude this meeting. We'll do another one in March, and we'll continue to. I have a list of everything that everybody brought up to me, so we'll continue working on that, and we'll keep pushing out little updates every couple of weekends. So expect an update every weekend or so. And if you guys find more ideas for LEO and you guys want to see them added to PSRP, you can just go ahead and make a JDO suggestion, and those can be added as long as they're in depth and they have more detail than what we usually see. Then we'll look into it and read it. But other than that, that's been it for this weekend's meeting. See you guys in the next one.